Hello, everyone, and welcome, or hopefully it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network. Our show today is the MALLORCA Connection, and the creative genius behind this concept is a dear friend and somebody who is a major team player here at USA Global TV and Radio. His name is ROLAND FRIEDL, and he is traveling in his amazing motorhome through Europe, sending all kinds of fabulous pictures, inspiring all of us to really consider what it would be like to have a wireless life. He's not only a co-host of this show, but he's also a moderator of his own show, a show for men, by men, about men. He has his own segment, a business show on our Talking Heads platform. And he's the kind of person who just is in the midst of everything. He's brilliant as a strategist and as a coach. And I'm thrilled to welcome him to the program. And then we'll bring out our special guest, ROLAND FRIEDL. Come on out. Hi.
Hi, Dr. JACALYN. Great to see you again. And you look fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And I forgot to mention the Earth Show, which is a huge inroads here because you're all about bringing awareness and education about how we can do things to help save our planet.
Yes, that's absolutely dedicated my life to that. Besides my main business in coaching consulting, big enterprises all over the globe. Yeah, I dedicate my life to the men's work and to the environmental, respecting Mother Earth, because it's so important that we take care and respect Mother Earth. Absolutely. Yeah.
And you've done all of this while cutting those strings to having a home or all these things, material things that you have to deal with on a regular basis. You said, I'm out of here. I'm in the motorhome. I'm with the dog. I'm with the cat. And I'm just going to explore this beautiful planet and speak to people all over the world.
Yeah, man, to be honest, JACALYN, I never had the feeling like I'm at home somewhere specific. So I've always said I'm home where my friends are, where I meet interesting people. This is all my home. I was always traveling. I love to travel, meet new cultures, new people, get new insights, new ideas, new experiences. That's all I love to do. Of course, I had a home base the last 14 years, which I left in end of March to move full time in my motorhome. But I'm not attached to what people call a home, a house, or an apartment. I love to travel to meet people. And now that the motorhome is my home, but actually it's my vehicle and yeah, it's my shelter, but the home is the world is my home. I always say the world is my home. And as you can see, last time I had a t-shirt on or something. Now it's getting colder here too in Spain. I'm now south in Spain, normally a hot area in summer, but a cold area in winter. I'm now in Cordoba, a very beautiful, famous city in Andalusia.
Well, I just love all the fabulous pictures that you've been sharing and where you're going, what you're doing, and I just admire it. So thank you so much. And you brought another fabulous guest to the platform. This time someone's joining us from the US of A, which is fabulous. And we're going to be talking about professional growth and leading through difficult times. And we've all had this experience. Some people have really shown up and done well with it, with the challenges. Other people not so well, but that's okay because there's coaches and strategists like you and our guest to help guide us through. So tell us a little bit about Brian, how you two connected, and the messaging and what he's going to be sharing with us today.
Yeah, well, actually, I met Brian, I think it's a year ago, more or less. A friend of mine in Oregon, where we do this men's show. We meet on a bi-weekly basis. We have not a men's show. That the men's show is we have a men's group. The men's show is on USA Global TV and Radio, Wild at Heart. But I have a men's group, Sparring for Men, where we meet twice a month online. And a friend of mine from Oregon brought Brian to the group, and I guess I met him a year ago, something like that. And for me, I love this guy. You know, in the beginning, he didn't talk much, but when he said something, when he opened his mouth, it was always on spot. He always nailed it, very precise, very intelligent, very empathic. So yeah, sometimes it's just the two of us having a conversation about different topics, and I love what he's doing. And yeah, I guess 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, he invited me to join one of his classes. he's giving online with his students was an amazing experience. And I thought, let's bring him on the show and discuss this topic, because it's also important that people get ideas and ways out of challenges, because some people are really struggling with change. And that's the topic. Yeah, let's bring him on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Let's welcome Brian Bartel to the program. Hi, Brian.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. Roland, how are you?
Hi, Brian. Great to see you. Great to see you, man.
Nice to have you with us. Brian, I just want to start off because some people might be curious. What is healthcare supply chain, and what do you do in that industry?
It's a great question. So up until a couple of years ago, supply chain, especially in the healthcare setting, didn't necessarily have as much of a voice. But during the pandemic, obviously trying to get all the critical supplies that a hospital needs. For people that aren't in healthcare, it's probably not a surprise. Labor is typically the number one expense, followed shortly behind that is supply expense. And so when you go to a healthcare setting, whether it's inpatient or a clinical setting, the clinicians need supplies to take care of patients, right? And so managing that expense, managing those products is a huge task. And so during the last couple of years, as we've all seen in the news, whether it's a toilet paper shortage or some of the supply chain shortages that we've seen through the various shipping methods, resource constraints, it's just been an extremely challenging time. But making sure at the end of the day, what we consider we're filling the hands of those who heal. And so making sure that our clinical colleagues have the supplies, the equipment that they need to take care of the patients. It's a big role. Again, when somebody walks through the door, if I get sick, if my family gets sick, understanding that hospitals are serving those communities with where they are at, I want to make sure that people have what they need. So it's a big role. Again, it's everything from just simple supplies that you can imagine, like what we use, facial tissue or Kleenex, to some complex things that are used in open heart cases, cath lab, electrophysiology, surgery. So again, there's a wide spectrum of things that we're responsible for helping to secure a steady supply of. And again, at the same point, helping to manage those costs associated with it.
Well, thank you so much for all that work that you and your team are doing to keep people safe and give people that comfort, knowing that we're not alone and somebody out there is taking care of everything going on behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Brian, a question. Did you ever in your career experience a similar challenge to secure the supply chains ever?
Globally, no. Again, this has kind of thrown supply chain everywhere, just in a complete tailspin. It's really kind of highlighted the importance that we need to have too with our business partners. So sometimes in supply chain, you can have that us versus them mentality when it comes to negotiating on prices, so on and so forth. But what I've really taken away from the last 2.5 years, and something that I've tried to focus on even prior to COVID, is realizing that these suppliers, these manufacturers, vendors, these are really our business partners. And so we need to have that mutual respect. Again, at the end of the day, hospitals are reliant on these manufacturers and distributors for these supplies. And so making sure that you have that good communication stream going on back and forth with two-way open communication is critical. We have dealt with shortages. So Hurricane Maria hit, I think in 2017, that was the big hurricane that hit Puerto Rico. Come to find out, a lot of the IV solutions were being manufactured in Puerto Rico, which a lot of us didn't know. That caused considerable challenges. And so since then, it's really been more of a conversation about understanding, where are supplies created, where are the raw materials, where do they come from? COVID really kind of expanded that. I've had more conversations in the past 2.5 years about where products are made, where some of the bottlenecks are, things that I just haven't had those conversations with before. It's always kind of been behind a veil or just something that wasn't discussed. So to answer your question, Roland, no, in my over 10 years of doing supply chain work, this has definitely been the biggest challenge.
Okay. Brian, and besides special skills, special knowledge about the industry, it's about processes in supply chains, what do you think are the main soft skills for a supply chain manager that are really important to when you face challenging times like this?
Yeah, again, communication is huge. I can't stress that enough. Having that foresight to number one, you've got the downstream. So, how is this going to affect the clinical teams? If I can't get product A and we've got to get in substitute product B or C or D, so on and so forth, how do we communicate that? How do we make sure that that's going to be meet the needs of those clinical users or the non-clinical departments for that matter too? And then having those communication skills to work with your vendor partners as well, understanding that there's a limited amount, a finite amount of resources. So how do you build those partnerships to help make sure that, again, you're being realistic for what you need? We don't want to go and hoard things. That's been a big problem. You talk about trying to think of the term now that I'm here, but whiplash, it's the, what's it called? Bullwhip effect on supply chain. So everybody starts hoarding again, then they start producing more. You've got these huge swings in inventory levels. So that's a big thing. The other thing I would really say is having that analytical mindset. I really believe that supply chain is a mixture of both art and science. There's a lot of data that we use in healthcare. There's tremendous amount of data, but not all of it is actionable. So trying to get those data points so that you can make an analysis to better make business-driven decisions based on that data. And so questioning things too, if vendor one is out, do you have another vendor? Is there tertiary supply that you can go to? And so those are the big things. But again, communication is huge. It sounds kind of silly, but sometimes, and I talk to my team about this, is I feel like an octopus. And again, here I am sitting here. It's like, okay, well, this is what we need to go for this. And this is who you need to talk to for this. And vendor A can help with this one. And then this goes over here. And so really, we're just kind of this hub and spoke of information flowing in and out, and then trying to get those supplies to where they need to go.
Brian, thank you so much. One of the things I really love about your background is something that I was always interested in doing, but I didn't do it. You've got this experience as a professional in corporate, and you're also an educator. So you get to take the experience that you have real world, real life, and then deliver it to people in a way that is different than somebody who's read about it in a book or watched it on a television show. What's that experience been like for you?
Oh, it's been awesome. So I actually, when I started going for my undergraduate degree, 20 years ago, I wanted to start, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to work in probably high school type level. And I took a few high school classes, teaching classes. And then I took a business class. And I'd been working in retail management for about 8 years at the time. And I was like, no, I'd rather do business. So in the back of my mind, I've always wanted to teach. And so after I got my MBA, I've been applying for just different part-time positions. I really love working in supply chain. That's really where my passion is. But really trying to develop some of those educational skills as well. And so an opportunity came up at a local community college to teach, and I've loved it. I mean, it's the first time I get to teach in person. So coming out of COVID, when there's been lockdowns and restrictions, to being able to teach in person to a group of people that are really interested in being there, it's just been awesome. And again, it's a neat mix, because having been in management leadership, working in retail, working in insurance and financial services for a while, now working in healthcare, you can kind of mix that academia, things that people read in a textbook, and say, here's a real life application. This is something that I've actually seen multiple times throughout my professional career. And so it's really beneficial. I think that the students enjoy that. Again, having Roland come on. Roland, thanks for coming to the virtually to the class. They absolutely loved what you had to say about the lifestyle that you've created. They just found it super fascinating and invigorating, just kind of that innovation that you've brought there too. So it's been great. Again, it's stressful having a full-time job and then also teaching on the side, but I'm very fortunate. And they've asked me to come back and teach next term, doing that one online. So I'm going to get a different kind of perspective of teaching in class versus online. So I'm excited for that challenge as well.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, I loved it. I love that. And I really wish we had more teachers and people who are teaching from a practical point of view. Of course, we need the theories. Of course, we need all the stuff, but more practical stuff and really that you can implement and the people know exactly what to do. And that's what I also do when I deliver workshop. We don't do case studies. I always ask my clients, bring real clients. Let's do the real stuff. Brian, you mentioned before, sometimes you feel like an octopus. I love octopuses. They're very intelligent. They have more than one heart. They have more than one brain. I guess, I'm not quite sure. I have 5 brains and 7 hearts, or the other way around, something like that. So where I want to go with you is about personal development. What do you think about personal development? Why is it important? What are you suggesting? Where should people focus on?
Yeah, professional development. That's huge. And so actually, we were just having a conversation about this in my class about there's different views on formal education. Obviously, there's a lot of cost that goes into getting in your degree, whether it's your bachelor's, your master's, or you're working towards your doctorate. A lot of costs involved. But that information, again, you get what you want out of education. That's my big takeaway from that. And I was telling the class too, I mean, you're going to get what you want to get out of it. So if you're here because you just want to get a degree, you're not going to get as much as somebody that's here because they want to learn something. And so having that mindset, that's something that's going to go with you forever. And so you might, Roland, you've talked about, the crystal balls and the rubber balls. I love that because if you're arming yourself with knowledge, with skill sets, with that professional development, that's something that's going to take with you, or you can take with you wherever you go. It's something that can't be taken away. And so having that, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a formal education. I think that the way that, especially the United States is going, there's kind of a change in mindset. Again, a lot of jobs, you do need to have, an advanced degree. But again, there's a lot of trade opportunities out there as well, where you actually learn skills with your hands. But I would take advantage of whatever you can. Again, if you work somewhere and there's an education program, take it. If they've got education funding for you, take it. Even if it's $100, that's something that is going to, again, travel with you for the rest of your life. I'm a big proponent too of joining professional organizations. So I've been a member of the Project Management Institute, and then also a member of the Association of Healthcare Resource and Materials Management, where I serve on the education committee. I recently became a fellow of that organization in May of 2021, which was a big accomplishment for myself. And so, again, it's just challenging. We don't want to remain stagnant, right? I think, Roland, in just our conversations, every 2 weeks that I talk with you, I walk away with just so much more excitement, if you will. I think that's a big portion of it too. You need to have that excitement on what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And again, being able to transfer that to other people. How can you develop those around you? When you start working on a high-performing team, the world just changes. Your life gets so much easier. Not that there aren't still challenges, but you have that tight-knit group of people around you that can really help fare through some of these very challenging times. So personal development, again, I'm a huge proponent. Somebody says, "Hey, Brian, you want to go take this class?" Yes, I do. What's the class about? I absolutely. So again, I can't say it enough. If you got that opportunity, especially if there's a cost and somebody else is going to front that for you, take advantage of it, because you're going to learn something and it's going to help you in some way or another.
Absolutely. I want to emphasize something you said. You said in the beginning, it's about the mindset. It's about what you want to take away. It's just having a new certificate or a degree or whatever, or you really want to learn something.
Right.
And I also believe the mindset is the most important thing what I want to take away. I read a study when I was preparing for this interview, actually a European one, and it said that people working for corporations, working in the corporate world, only 2% are willing to invest their own time and their own money in personal development. If it's paid by the company in its time, it's okay. But if they have to pay for themselves, it's only 2%. And this is really, I would say scary. What do you think about this?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. And it's amazing, Roland. And that's very true. So again, I had to pay for my schooling. I do pay for my certificates. I've got a few different certifications that are important to me that I've paid for. Some of those have been funded in part through educational opportunities at my work. But you're right. It's crazy. People will go and they'll buy a brand new car, or they'll, go out and buy a coffee every single day. And then they look at how much education costs and they're like, "Oh, no, I can't do that." It's like, well, yes, you can. You need to make it a priority. It's amazing just the amount. Like I use the Amazon Kindle. I've got I read all the time. I love reading. I've probably got like 5 or 6 books that I'm in the middle of right now. And I should just have one. But again, I want to read this and then I want to read that. Again, having that opportunity to do it, you've just got to make it a priority. Again, I think that if you have the opportunity for somebody to pay for it for you, obviously, yes, that's a no-brainer. Go for it. But you've also got to prioritize yourself. It's the same thing with a gym membership. If you want to pay to go to a gym and you don't use it, that's on you. But investing in that for the long term is going to pay dividends. And again, I was trying to think of who said it, but readers are leaders. It's a big thing, making sure that you're continuously developing. And again, bake that into your budget. Again, I've got a certain amount of funds each year that I do allocate for myself to make sure that I'm trying to stay up on industry trends. If there's a class that I want to take, I'm going to budget for that and make sure that it's something that I put on my priority list of things to do.
Absolutely, Brian. I totally agree with you. I'm still paying for my doctorate. So it's like, but you know, these personal commitments that we make for personal development, they open doors.
Absolutely.
They give us access to people and opportunities we never would have had before. And by the way, we do have some comments over here from Maria. Hi, Maria Eduardo. I'm one of the 2%. Haha. And also,
Great.
I took extra advantage during the pandemic. Good for you. Let us know where you're joining from, please. So,
Good,
Brian,
good.
a question I have for you is when we think about professional and personal development and in the career that you're in and also as an educator, have you found that during the pandemic and coming out that people that you interact with were more willing to share ideas about how to make change or how to look at things from a different perspective as opposed to maybe being locked up or closed tight and not feeling that it was acceptable to share what their thoughts and feelings were about how to evolve as an organization, as a community?
Yeah. Obviously, it's very difficult during COVID, especially working in healthcare. Some of the restrictions that we all had to go through, that had a definite negative impact on people's psyches. Again, my daughters, we moved during COVID. So we moved down from McMinnville to the Eugene Springfield area during COVID. So a lot of challenges. They weren't able to meet new friends or right off the bat. So that was very difficult going to a new school that's now all online. But in terms of your question, yes, I think that there's a big shift in mindset. We've seen the ability for those who have that option. Again, if you have to do a hands-on job, working remote obviously is not an opportunity. But there's a lot of transition for people to work remotely. And again, Roland is a perfect example. Again, I look at him and I'm like, the lifestyle that he's created is just amazing. It's been a lot of hard work and dedication on his side, but freeing up those opportunities. In terms of communication about challenges and being more open to it, I honestly do. I think that there's so much more communication that's happening between groups that traditionally have been more siloed. We have, again, from the clinical standpoint, people understand where there might be problems and issues and being proactive versus, when COVID first hit, everything was just reactive. It caught, a lot of people off guard. And so it has fostered a bigger community of sense. I think people are really questioning life, both on the personal and professional level. Are we doing the best thing that we can? Is this the best way to do it? And trying to focus on creating better efficiencies through that too. So in terms of that, personally, I have seen much more collaboration. I think people have that yearning now to try to figure out, okay, we've gone through a very tumultuous time. What can we do to improve both our personal and professional lives moving forward, and taking that all into account for sure.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I have a question. You mentioned that people are rethinking their lives the last 2 years. We experienced the same in Europe, that they're questioning their job. Is it really that what I really want to do? Is it meaningful? Is it purposeful? Can I do something differently? And people are also caring more about the environment. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is on specific on your job in the healthcare industry. Let's focus a little bit on sustainability. What are hospitals doing? Because I know that you are using a lot of course, so the patient is safe, the client is safe, a lot of single-use products, of course, you have to use. How about the sustainability there? What are the trends there? Is it everything recyclable? I guess some stuff is really toxic. So what's going on in this field?
Yeah, so there's a big opportunity there, Roland. And over the last couple of decades, healthcare systems, for the right reason, from an infection control standpoint, have really transitioned from reusable devices or equipment, things such as even just like bedpans, to single use. And so, it's interesting that you bring that up. I was walking down the hallway and I saw one of my team members pushing a couple carts with just overfull with these supplies that they need up on the floors. And sadly, most of that is going to end up in the landfill. There's a recent report that just came out through Greenpeace that said in the United States, I believe only 5% of plastic that could be recycled is being recycled in the United States. It's a huge issue. There's a few years ago, Practice Green Health is a sustainability organization that helps healthcare organizations start looking at these initiatives and how they can reduce waste. And they had a study that came out again a few years ago that said the average US hospital generates 29 pounds of waste per bed per day. So if you've got, a 100 bed hospital times 29, that's how much waste is being generated. And so absolutely. And COVID really, really highlighted this too. We're all vying for these single use supplies. So you use it once and then it goes into the garbage. Again, if it's something that could be recycled, we try to do that as well. But as you mentioned, from some regulatory standpoint, some of these things can't be, or you just may not have that capability to recycle that type of plastic or whatever it might be in your local market. And so transitioning to that has been a huge thing. So things such as disposable isolation gowns. Again, it was a just tremendous amount of needs at the peak of the COVID outbreak. And so we've started using reusable gowns. We have a program that they wash and recycle those, put them back into use. And so those can be used, I think, up to 100 times, which is just fantastic. And so we're really trying to figure out ways to be more effective with our resources. We use a reprocessing vendor that will take some of the supplies and reprocess those according to FDA and 510 standards. I'm sorry, FDA standards. And so really that's what I look at too. It's, it's amazing. Like when we couldn't get masks again, with the mask mandates that were in effect, people are using a mask and throwing it away, using a mask and throwing it away. What options are there out there? And we've seen some pretty big innovative things. Roland, I like really listening to your Earth show and some of the things that you're bringing out that you can do on a personal basis. But purchasing, procurement, supply chain, we really have a big role. What can we do? And that's something that we talk about on my team quite a bit. What can we do to lessen that impact? And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a big transition. I hope that we see a big transition back to a more sustainable circular economy for these medical supplies. Again, with the understanding that some of it we probably can't, but I think that we need to be more innovative in that approach as well.
Do you see there any trends that plastic can be substituted when you need, I don't know, when you use syringes or cannulas, needles, that we instead of plastic we use bamboo, or is it hygienically not safe, or are there any alternatives coming?
So there was an interesting J&J, I believe was the company I was listening to, one of their sustainability podcasts. It's a big thing, Roland, and people are trying to figure out a different way to do things. They were talking about recycling contact lenses, people that use them in their eye. And they were saying that the type of plastic that is used in that contact lens, unfortunately, there's nothing else that they can use. There's nothing that they know of that has that ability. But it's a good question. And I think that there's companies out there. There's trocars that are used for minimally invasive surgery that are reusable. There's collection now starting for different types of surgical equipment and supplies that can be reprocessed. And I think that there's a big market for that. I think that if you can come up with something, again, at meeting those regulatory standpoints that need to be met, it'll be there. As far as trends, I think just having those conversations are where we're at now, just because the industry has transitioned so much. We're so dependent on these single use that looking at categories of where we can start moving back is where we're at now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I just wonder, when we're talking about trends, if we segue over to education, what do you see in terms of what people are craving, what they need in terms of how they're going to consume their information and their education? Do you see any new trends in the education sector?
Yeah. Again, it's been interesting teaching online. Teaching in person. I'm so glad that I got to do that, because you could just tell it's a much more conducive. We can have conversations back and forth with each other. There's a lot of opportunities with online as well. I do see a trend with people trying to figure out, is it worth, again, in the United States, there's a big debate kind of going on now with different people about student loan cancellation. The costs that are associated with education. Again, Dr. JACALYN, you talked about just the cost of getting a doctorate. It's prohibitive. And so trying to figure out, what can we do to minimize those costs and maximize the output? I think that there's a big shift in people saying too, like, it's okay. Blue collar is a great industry. There's plumbers, there's electricians, people that get these skill sets that are making a tremendous amount of money. Again, especially if you start opening your own business and transitioning to that lifestyle where you're making your own, it's great. And so again, for me personally, I think it's got to be up to the individual. I think you need to be mindful if you're going to go for formal education, have a good career path. Again, if you get a degree in underwater basket weaving, You might have a little niche there, but probably not something that's going to serve you well. So looking at those holistically, I think business is a great thing. Psychology, these are things that you can really have translatable skills that go throughout your professional career, wherever it might be. So as far as trends, I think a lot of people, I've got 2 high school daughters. Again, they're talking about starting at community college, which I'm like, oh, that's great. We'll save a little bit of money before they start heading off to university. But I'm glad that they want that. And again, it gives you an opportunity through the gen ed. The first 2 years you take a lot of gen ed classes, and that kind of helps formulate where you want to be. Again, I'm a perfect example. I wanted to be a teacher. And then as I started learning more about business, I was like, nope, that's where my passion is. And I'm glad that I went down that path.
Brian, I have a question. You're working in businesses. You're also teaching. If you could make a wish, Christmas is coming soon. What should be additional topics discussed in schools for kids?
That was my question, Roland. How about that?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Honestly, and this is no surprise, I think personal finance is a huge thing that needs to be taught. I think that my oldest daughter, who's going to be graduating this year, did say that she's going to take a class on personal finance. When I went to school back in high school, I didn't have that opportunity. I took accounting courses. Again, I got my MBA. I took some advanced things about how to, analyze stocks and so on and so forth, but I didn't even know how to enter the stock market. So you learn all these, advanced concepts, but having that personal touch about how you can integrate these on your daily life is there. And so I think that personal finance is huge. That will serve people tremendously. Again, if you don't have debt, you're much freer than somebody that has debt. And so if that was my wish, I think, again, that would just serve so many people well, is to have an adequate and proper foundation on personal finance.
I have one additional question, because my first studies in university was German philology, was very cool, and history. I think it's also very important. But my question is it really nowadays state of the art to teach things that everyone can Google? I mean, data and facts, isn't it more important that we learn some more practical things? As you said, becoming financially free, learning how to communicate or how to become an elevated listener, stuff like that.
I think you're right, Roland. Again, it's amazing. We'll be at the dinner table with my family, and I'll say, well, this is what I think. And then they whip out their phone and like, nope, Dad, Google says so-and-so. It's like, oh man. All right. Dad doesn't know what he's talking about all the time. Right. And you're 100% right. There's so much information out there. So putting that into a practical standpoint, you're right, Roland. And so building those relationships, again, with COVID, I think that one of the negative impacts of that has been the communication standpoint. People have lost that ability to communicate back and forth in person, especially the younger generation. They're constantly on social media, and they have these large groups of acquaintances. But again, are they going to invite them over, for a bowling party or to spend the night or whatever? It's like, oh no, Dad, that's not what type of friend we are. And so I think you're right. Building those personal relationships and face-to-face interactions is going to be huge. That's why I've really enjoyed the in-person class, because you do get to have that relationship building as part of it. It's a huge component of the human experience, right? You can't do that virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, when we think about things that are not taught early on that really should be, I know one of the areas that you really are a master in is project management. And project management is at the core of every single project, but people don't know how to do it. They don't even know what it is. It's kind of like, what? I can't follow, but it's so important. What are your thoughts about this?
Oh, yeah, that's timely, because yesterday, that's what we discussed in class is about project management. It's huge. Again, formal project management is an amazing career. The people that I know that are project managers, they really enjoy it. You're working on these sometimes complex, it can last a couple weeks to a couple months to a couple years, depending on what it is that project is that they're on. But that mindset of taking something, you've got all these diverse people, stakeholders, end users, customers, you've got the functional managers, you've got the subject matter experts, and combining that into a format that is going to produce a schedule and then an outcome that's beneficial for everybody is huge. And so anytime that you have an ability to be a part of a project team, I'd recommend it. There's a lot of emphasis that comes out from a personal standpoint that I appreciate. So I spent 8 years in retail, working in a grocery store, and I'd go home and I'm like, what did I do all day? I stood in the check stand and I checked people out and sent them on their way, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But for my personal psyche, I had people that were working in construction, and we'd be driving around. They're like, "Oh, hey, I built that house," or "I helped remodel that office." And having that project mindset of something that you're accomplishing, whether it's tangible or intangible, is just an amazing thing. So if you get any opportunity, again, Project Management Institute is great. They've got a lot of education. But even like you said, just looking on YouTube, I've learned a tremendous amount on YouTube, on Googling different things, and then just opening some great books. Never stop learning. And I would challenge everybody to just keep reading too.
Absolutely. And learning here at USA Global TV and Radio,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Sharing is caring. We do have some follow-up comments from Maria. Thanks for engaging with us, Maria. We really appreciate it. Maria is joining from St. Martin.
Very cool.
And also writes, since the pandemic, lots of persons in my country are shifting from the hospitality sector. Yeah, that's hospitality really got nailed during the pandemic. For sure. Any comments you want to make to Maria, either of you?
And what I would say too is, as we go about our daily lives, be kind. Roland and I, we've talked about this. It's so important. We've all got things that are going on. You never know what somebody's dealing with. But again, a big takeaway too is just really be kind. We all have unique challenges, whether it's something that happens at our job and our family life, but going out of your way to be a little bit extra nicer can make such a huge difference, especially as we head into the holiday seasons. It's a stressful time for a lot of people. It's a happy time as well. But just be kind, and just realize that everybody has their own things. And if you can make their life a little bit better, even a smile goes a long ways. So just be kind.
I was smiling when you mentioned it's holiday season, a stressful time. And I said, what is it talking about? It doesn't fit into my lifestyle.
Stress-free. I love it. But Brian, you have really a full schedule, a full plate. But what's next for you? What are some of the wonderful milestones that you have out there that you want to look to accomplish?
Yeah, so right now, I talked about the Association of Healthcare Resource Materials Management. That's the national kind of supply chain organization that I'm a part of. We have the Western States Healthcare Materials Management Alliance. We call it WISHMA. I was able to do a little presentation in Tacoma a couple months ago on that. So I'm running for the VP of that. So if anybody here is from WISHMA, I'd appreciate your vote. So working on that. And then again, we've got some big projects that we're doing here at the hospital, just trying to increase efficiencies, make the clinical team's lives easier. And so, yeah. And the big thing is too, my daughter, she's going to hopefully graduate high school a year early. So I don't know how she did that. She's extremely intelligent. She's been working quite a bit as well. So just getting her graduated and then on to the next stage in life is just an exciting thing from that perspective as well. And again, I continue to keep growing. I hope to have more opportunities to both teach and then just to continue to develop my skill set. Healthcare is an ever-changing environment. Looking at just the forecast for the next 1 to 3 years, I think we're going to see an increase in costs. Hospitals are already struggling with reimbursements and revenue from that impact. And so trying to help kind of mitigate some of that is a big challenge. So constantly having that.
Thank you so much, Brian. You know, we're almost at the end of the show, but another topic, I'd love to have you come back and have a chat with us. We have another show called The Power of Etiquette and Manners, and there's 2 physicians in Pakistan that are working on a program for the healthcare sector for everyone involved, whether it's medical students, physicians, nurses, et cetera, back of the house, for people to learn etiquette and manners in healthcare. And I would love to have your input on that and maybe be part of how to get the whole thing rolled out.
That would be awesome. Yeah. There's a great book. It's called If Disney Ran Your Hospital by FRIEDL. It's something that I've come back to over the last couple of years, but it takes that kind of customer experience that Disney is world renowned for and how you can apply that in a healthcare setting. Again, people come to the hospital. Most people don't want to be here, right? If you're sick, you're not feeling well. So how do you make that experience a little bit better for that person that's really going through some very challenging, struggling times, and their families too, for that matter, right? So that's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be a part of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Wonderful. Brian, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? We have your banner, but for people who are listening on a radio station or on a podcast platform, how do they connect with you? And who would you like to contact you?
Yeah, I love connecting with new people. Again, just the amount of just different skill sets. I love it. Again, I'm very active. I try to be on LinkedIn, even though I may not post every single day. I love LinkedIn. It's the only social media platform that I'm on. And so it's just, you can search me on there, Brian Bartel, BrianBartel. And then bartelb@gmail.com is my email. But yeah, I love connecting with people from any type of industry, any type of walk of life. I think that we all bring such unique perspectives through our own personal struggles, challenges, and wins. It's just it's amazing to see what other people are doing with the limited time that we all have on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And Maria, thanks for engaging with us. Please do connect with Brian and also with Roland. Roland, over to you as we close out.
Yeah, Brian, thank you so much. It's always, this giving and receiving. I love our communication. I love our conversation. I love our friendship, our relationship. We both learning from each other, and I also learned a lot from you today. Thanks so much for that, and thanks for the time and the knowledge you're sharing here. And thanks a lot. And yeah, we talk soon, and see you soon. Actually, first Saturday in December on the men's group.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Well, again, I appreciate this opportunity. I love what both of you are doing. Keep it up. It does definitely make positive impacts on many people's lives. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Keep up the
great work.
I thank you.
Come back and see us again on this or any of our other shows.
Sounds good.
Bye for now.
Thank you, Brian. Have a good day. Thank you.
Brian. Thank you again, Roland, so much for bringing Brian to the platform. And your show is coming up right after this. Would you like to just give people a little bit of background about the business show that you're doing and what they can expect to hear from you today?
Yes, with pleasure. Yeah. In a few minutes, I start the next episode of the Talking Head show, this business show. Actually, right now in this model, we're talking about helping customers manage change through innovation. And there are already 10 episodes gone, but today's episode number 11, I will talk about account innovation, meaning what's the difference of retaining an account and growing an account, meaning what you have to do in addition after retention to grow the account. That's the topic for today. And yeah, stay tuned, go on USA Global TV and join me. The Talking Head. You're more than welcome if you want to learn a little bit more about account growth. And it doesn't matter if you're running a huge international company, a national one, or just a single entrepreneur. It's working for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roland. All right, I'll see you over in the other studio.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Thank you to each and every one of you, whether you're watching us on the live or the replay. I really personally do appreciate it. Our goal here at USA Global TV and Radio is to provide education, hope, and inspiration, and of course, a little bit of entertainment here and there. If you've ever had a dream of being a TV host, do reach out. We've got a couple of opportunities left. Go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, contact us, and just let us know what it is you would like to do and what you'd like to share. We'd like to support your work. Thank you again for watching. We do have approximately 29 live shows each and every week. You can find out more and you can watch our shows on our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio. Very soon you'll be able to watch on our website, which is usaglobaltv.com, and of course all over social media. Thank you again. We'll be back very shortly with Roland FRIEDL and Talking Heads. Bye, Brian. Bye, Maria. Thank you.